From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Dangerous drought.
We are living day by day.
It isn't just an issue in the U.S. See what farmers are facing in Italy. Grass-fed or grain-fed? Can you tell the difference? We look into the science behind both as traders run for the exits.
I think the recession fears are really starting to spike higher.
What's fueling this week's market moves into the red right now on AgDay? Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. The sell-off in the commodity markets continued following the July 4th holiday. But is this evidence yet that inflation has peaked? AgDay's Michelle Rook has a closer look.
Clinton, one signal inflation may have peaked is the yield on the 10-year U.S. Treasury note. It's off its highs. Another clue, falling commodity prices. Crude oil, wheat, natural gas, lumber, corn, and other raw materials ended the quarter near or lower than March prices. A J.P. Morgan Chase commodity strategist says about $15 billion moved out of commodity futures markets during the week ending June 24th. It was the fourth straight week of outflows, bringing the dollar amount pulled from commodities this year to about $125 billion. That's a seasonal record that tops even 2020. Market analysts say funds are bailing, and that accelerated last week as long-term chart support was breached in most of the grain markets.
They just decided, I don't want to be long anymore. I think the recession fears are really starting to spike higher.
Any manager, does he want to throw money at something like that when there's probably something else that in his view is a safer, better place to ride out the recession in, like an interest-bearing instrument perhaps?
As of June 29th, the funds liquidated nearly 37,000 contracts of corn and were only 228,000 contracts long, their smallest position since October 2020. Funds also sold 30,000 contracts of soybeans. There are only 1,000 contracts long in Chicago wheat, 25,000 in Kansas City, a 51-week low. And this doesn't count the liquidation the last few sessions.
It was a bad week across the board, and I think the worst of them all was, quite frankly, has been the last 2 weeks of the complete destruction of the wheat market. And wheat pretty much led this market to the upside, and it's now leading it to the downside.
More favorable weather is also pressuring the grain, so how much more liquidation could we see in these markets? We'll find out in our market analysis.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Another gauge of the farm economy is raising red flags this month. The Ag Economy Barometer from Purdue University and the CME Group shows farmers continue to worry about the future. The Ag Economy Barometer fell in June to a reading of 97. That's down a couple of points from May, pushed lower by farmers' pessimism about the future. Now, half of farmers say they expect their farms to be worse off a year from now.
Input costs have increased dramatically in 22, and they're very concerned about that continuing into 2023. The second most common answer was availability of inputs. 21% were very concerned about the availability of inputs. If we had asked that availability of input question last year, that wouldn't have even been on their radar probably. But given all the concerns we've had in the last few months about availability of herbicide, insecticide, parts, fertilizer to some extent, that is a concern of a lot of producers.
Surveyors say producers were somewhat more optimistic about current conditions this month, but that improvement was more than offset by weaker expectations for the future. Triple digits and high humidity for the middle part of the country. It may sound like a broken record, but it's the reality right now. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us with more.
Yeah, Clinton, that's right. Broken record, but the heat is here to stay and a big ridge building through the middle of the country. The heat and humidity keeps those low temperatures during the morning in the 70s and even 80s, but look at the afternoon highs as we head through later today with temperatures topping out above 100 degrees right through a good portion of the center of the country, and then 80s and 90s still spreading all the way towards the East Coast. And yeah, it remains hot and humid. That ridge, though, a little bit farther back to the west than it was last week, and that's bringing more of that heat into parts of the Rockies, but also allowing more shower and storm chances in places that we didn't see much last week. That is the Corn Belt and places towards the East Coast as well. So that pattern not going anywhere as we head through the end of the week. And notice our shower and storm chances are not going anywhere either. Most of the rain falling through the Corn Belt and upper Midwest, and then off towards the south and east as we head through the rest of this week. And that's something we'll continue to track right here on Ag Day. And here's a great shot from Shelby Taylor of Saskatchewan, Canada. Shelby saying, never mind ducks, she's got all of her puppies in a row. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
Ag Day is brought to you by the National Corn Growers Association. Beef, poultry, pork, and dairy producers combine to be the corn growers' #1 customer. Both industries need each other to be successful. Together, they are one team. Learn more at ncga.com.
This week, we're celebrating the partnership between grain farmers and the livestock industry entitled One Team. And obviously, the beef cattle industry is a very large consumer of corn. So what's the difference between grain-finished and grass-finished beef? Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan uncovers the science behind the product.
A bustling business since 1959,
and in its prime processed quite a few animals on a weekly basis.
Ralph's Packing Company is a staple in Perkins, Oklahoma, a family-owned business for 4 generations.
Ground meat is a long-standing staple.
Like many other small meat processors, Jake Nelson says Ralph's Packing Company is seeing a shift to more direct marketing of meat.
Those individuals that own livestock, raise livestock, have shifted the way they market those animals away from what we classically call the sale barn into more direct-to-the-consumer marketing.
Accelerated by the pandemic, the internet and social media have opened the door for more direct sales. But it's those same avenues that can also be a source of misinformation about meat.
Some of the biggest misconceptions of those finished on corn or grain-based diets are those environmental impacts that they could have.
Gretchen Mayfie is a meat scientist at Oklahoma State University. She says grass-finished and grain-finished beef have many similarities.
They've all grazed throughout the vast majority of their life, and they're only finished on corn for a short time, and nutritionally very minimal differences.
Mayfie says grass-finished beef is a niche market, only accounting for about 5%. And here at Ross Packing Company, you'll find only corn finished, but that's mainly due to customer demand.
Tremendous difference in carcass characteristics, product attributes, aroma, palatability. It's a radical difference between the two. And there's not one better than the other.
And the taste is due to this, the marbling of the meat.
That fat, that marbling, contributes to flavor, it contributes to juiciness, and then somewhat to tenderness.
With no real nutritional difference, this meat scientist says the science also proves that grass-finished isn't more environmentally friendly.
Sometimes even the grass finished, because it takes longer to reach that market weight or to provide the same amount pounds of beef, it can have a higher impact environmentally than those finished in a feed yard.
Some of the misconceptions stem from places like this. ButcherBox, which is a subscription meat service offering only grass-finished meat. ButcherBox claims that grass-fed beef has arisen as a healthier, leaner, and more humane alternative to the standard beef that you can find at the grocery store. But experts say that's simply not true, and even the term grass-fed can be misleading.
That is probably better described as grass-fed and finished, because we finish these animals to an end point. Their purpose in life is to be a food source for us, and so we need to be careful in the terminology we use so that we don't confuse consumers.
Whether you opt for meat that's finished on grass or finished on corn, these meat experts are serving up the facts so beef is what's for dinner for years to come.
Reporting for Ag Day, I'm Tyne Morgan.
All right, thanks, Tyne. Well, coming up, we take a deeper dive into Tuesday's market slide. That's next in analysis. And later, drought conditions have farmers facing some tough decisions. But it's not just an issue confined to the U.S. See what producers in Italy are fighting.
Ag Day is brought to you by the End Zone by Farm Shop MFG, which allows you to rehydrate your soybeans from 10 to 13%. On a 20,000 bushel bin, that's an extra semi-load added to your bottom line. Order your End Zone fan control by July 31st and receive $200 off.
Grains are continuing to fall back, with corn, soybeans, and wheat all suffering double-digit losses on Tuesday. AgDay's Michelle Rook has more on what's driving markets right now.
Joining us with market analysis, Brian Grady with Pro Farmer. Tuesday, a big risk-off day. It looked like recession and weather kind of pounded the market.
Yeah, and it's a big one coming out of the 4th of July weekend. That's usually a tone setter in the week ahead, or the weeks ahead. So, just had kind of a perfect storm. All the recession stuff. You mentioned the weather. Got some rains through the holiday weekend. It looks like the next 2 weeks will provide more rains as the corn goes through pollination. You had the U.S. dollar up sharply. Big, huge gains there. Safe haven buying going into the dollar, and most other currencies around the world declining. Basically everything. And then you get technical selling and fund liquidation on top of it. And it was just a massive down day.
Yeah, a lot of massive fund liquidation already. How much more will the funds liquidate, Brian?
Well, I think that there's more risk of liquidation here near term, because the path of least resistance is down right now. And to not get too cliche or anything, but money is going to flow out when that's the easy thing to do, and it's definitely the easiest thing to do right now. So we've done major technical damage here over the past week or so, and I think that we'll do a little bit more before all's said and done.
Yeah, we closed on Tuesday below $6 on corn, below $14 on beans. Where's the next area of support?
Well, I think you have to talk in December corn, probably somewhere in that $5 range. I mean, we're just a couple trading days away from there. Big limit moves down and away from that. So I think that that's a real risk at this point in time. It's probably going to take a weather scare to shore up the market and get the funds to buy again. And doesn't look like that's in the cards for the short-term outlook. When you talk about the soybeans, obviously not as critical a time frame. August is the way more critical time frame from a weather perspective.
Right.
But boy, when you see the liquidation pressure like this and the technical damage, it sure does point to more near-term price pressure.
Are we in a recession yet, Brian, or what are the leading indicators of that?
You know what? I do think we are in a recession. We'll have to wait. It'll take some time before it's defined as a recession, but I think that that's the case. We are seeing, the inflation come out of the market because commodity prices are dropping. But I think that pretty much every indicator right now is that we have entered a recession, and we'll have to work our way out. And the big focal point is the Fed, obviously, and what they do with interest rates and how aggressive they get in trying to tame the inflation. Okay. If that's already started to decline, the risk is now that the Fed gets too aggressive and drives us even deeper into recession because it slows economic activity.
Thanks so much for joining us. Brian Grady with Pro Farmer. Our full analysis on agweb.com. More Ag Day coming up.
Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joining us here, taking a look at our national forecast. And really what we're looking at is the chance of severe weather this week. And there's a real chance.
Yeah, and there's a wide area all the way from the northern plains right through the Corn Belt and into the south and east. And that's because of all that heat and humidity that's kind of fueling these storms. And you can really see this large area from places in Montana through the Dakotas and right through the Corn Belt here all the way towards the southeast, dealing with that chance for a few strong storms as we head through this afternoon. Isolated tornado is possible. Main threats, though, are going to be the heavy downpours, damaging wind gusts, and some isolated pockets of some small hail. So that's something to watch anywhere shaded in that yellow region, and that is downwind kind of that big ridge building in the west, allowing a lot of those storms to bubble up. And along with those storms comes that chance for heavy rain. Now, much needed, especially through the Corn Belt where we didn't see much last week and things really started to dry out. We're going to continue to see that through the Ohio Valley as we head through this week. A few showers and storms back in the west and along the south and east. More of those pop-up showers and storms with all of that heat and humidity kind of fueling some of those. So here's a look at the map as we head into Wednesday morning. Showers and storms right across the middle part of the Corn Belt and into parts of the Great Lakes. And even the Ohio Valley starting to see those pop-up showers and storms with high pressure and control down to the south, but still looking at those kind of bubbling up in the east as we head through the afternoon. And then that chance is there for some stronger storms in the northern plains as we head overnight and into Thursday morning. Northern Rockies in there as well. And that storm chance moves eastward again as we head through the day on Thursday as that low kind of tracks a little bit farther towards the east. So temperatures down to the south of this Going to be very warm this afternoon. By tomorrow morning, though, still very warm and humid. Anywhere you see 70s and even 80s on the map during the morning, that is when we're going to be looking at very humid air, and all that is going to fuel temperatures likely at or above that 100-degree mark as we head through tomorrow afternoon as well, potentially all the way up into the Ohio Valley and all the way back to the Rockies. So very warm out there, and that's because of this big ridge, which is still building in the west, and it's not going anywhere as we head towards the weekend, and we'll continue to track all of that and that rain right here on Ag Day. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Moose River, Maine, morning showers with afternoon sunshine, a high of 70 degrees. Corning, Arkansas, sunny, hot and humid, a high of 100 degrees. And Stanford, Montana, sunny with PM strong storms, a high near 81 degrees.
The threat over African swine fever is not over in Europe. 2 more cases of the deadly disease were confirmed in Germany. The country's Federal Ag Ministry saying the cases are in farm pigs, including 1 case in a western state which had previously been free of the disease. 280 pigs and 1,500 piglets had to be euthanized. China and a series of other pork buyers banned imports from German pig meat back in September of 2020. That's after the first case was confirmed in wild animals. Now, did you see this? Joey Jaws Chestnut gobbled his way to a 15th win at the Nathan's famous 4th of July hot dog eating contest. Now, Chestnut managed to eat 63 hot dogs and buns in just 10 minutes on Monday. Women's record holder Miki Sudo took the women's title, downing 40 hot dogs and buns to notch her 8th victory. Now, this also happened. An animal activist wearing a Darth Vader mask momentarily disrupted the competition by rushing the stage. Chestnut put the protester in a brief chokehold before contest officials escorted them away. Now, it didn't even seem to rattle Chestnut. Drought isn't just a problem here in the U.S. See the tough choices farmers in Italy are having to make as the country suffers its worst drought in 70 years. We've been talking about drought here in the U.S., but Italy is also in the middle of a historic drought. The country's leaders have declared a state of emergency in 5 northern regions in response to the area's worst drought in 70 years. As Barbie Nuno reports, the drought threatens more than 30% of the country's ag production.
The River Po, which runs from the Alps to the Adriatic Sea, usually floods the land. But this year it is far below normal and dropping fast. 30% of Italy's food is produced on agricultural land that lies on either side of this river. And the area is suffering the worst drought in more than 70 years. The situation is the same across northern Italy, where some communities are already rationing water. Here on Simone Minelli's dairy farm, things are dire. As he watches the water level of the Po River drop, he worries about the future of this family farm. He's fearful he will have to cut the size of his herd.
We'll see. We are living day by day. It's logical when you don't have enough feed for the animals you have to reduce.
And the milk from these cattle needs to meet a very high standard to be awarded the seal of authentic Parmigiano Reggiano Parmesan cheese from this region. Ada Giorgi has been the president of this local water consortium for the last 20 years. Her customers still have water, but she has never seen the Po in such distress.
We are missing rain, there is no snow, there are high temperatures. This creates the famous perfect storm, and we are in an extreme crisis.
And the forecast doesn't look good. For centuries, people who lived along this mighty river feared it would destroy their crops and homes. Now they fear it will disappear entirely. Barbie Lazzanedo, CNN, on the River Po, Italy.
Thanks, and thanks to you for watching. That's all of our time today. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day out in farm country.
Registration is open for the 2022 Pro Farmer Crop Tour. Join our team as we gain insight on the 2022 growing season in person or online. Visit profarmercroptour.com/register to select the stop nearest you.